I'll say what I said at the first service this morning about this lesson. And, we come on a day like this, and everybody has a similar awareness of what happens in life. And we all bring it. And I'm talking about Paris, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But we all bring something that we share on days like this. And so, keeping that in mind, just listen to verse 8 of the gospel again. And by the way, I'll just tell you that I hope I'm not taking liberties, too many or too much liberty with this particular passage, and I don't think I am. I think this is faithful to the text. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places. There will be famines. There will be terrorist attacks in cities across the world. There will be heartache. There will be anguish. There will be doubt and confusion. I think what Jesus is saying in these particular passages is that's life. And he's not minimizing any of it by any stretch of the imagination. He's saying, I know what you're going through as people in this life and in this world. And I'm with you. I don't think that's taking much liberty with this particular passage. Mark 13 is the end of Jesus' earthly ministry. He is on his way to the cross. He's told his disciples that he will die for their sake and for the sake of the world. He told his disciples that he would rise above everything, above any power that would otherwise want to have power over life and existence and eternity. Just like us, were we the disciples, they didn't understand it fully. In fact, Mark makes a real big deal in his gospel about saying the disciples just really maybe only got a slice of what Jesus was talking about. And I'm telling you this because, again, I think the story of the gospel is Jesus' story of coming into this world and saying, I'm walking with you in every circumstance of life and in every understanding that you have, as great as the understanding is or as narrow as the understanding is, of who you think I am and who you think or what you think the world is under my love. So I think I'll just say this today. I think this sermon time almost is a prayer today. I think we often should consider our lives a prayer anyway. But I think this sermon time today is a bit of a prayer, and it's a prayer for all of us, but even more and more pointedly, it's a prayer for the world, for people in France, but around the world as well. I think it's a prayer to God that we would be opened up in as big a way as we possibly can be to understand how God is moving in the world. This past week, the week started with something that just kind of struck me, and then it ended with Paris. But this past week on Monday, I read an article that one of our an article about one of our former state national representatives, Michelle Bachmann. And Michelle had said that she felt that all of the experiences of life right now pointed to a much quicker end of the world, that Jesus was bringing an end to the world much more quickly. And she felt like all of the war and all the anguish and all of the violence out there was just a sure sign that that was happening. Well, I happen to disagree with her wholeheartedly, and I just will share that with you. However, her fervor or her desire for having a sense of urgency about people having faith in Jesus Christ is laudable. And I respect her for that. I respect her understanding of the faith and her sense of discipleship. I just happen to disagree with the fact that there are signs out there that show us that the end of the world is at hand. In fact, isn't it Jesus himself in the Bible who says no one will know the time, the day, or the hour? Right? In fact, he said the end will come like a thief in the night. So I think I'd want to reframe us today just a little bit. These passages ask about the end of the world. Everybody wants to know what that would be like. You and I all do. The end of the world on Friday night came for 129 people, though, right? Anytime a person dies, the end of the world comes. We don't have to wait till a future time when God says, I will bring everything to rights and I will complete everything. Our prayer is that no matter where we are on the cycle of the world's life, God walks with us. God gives us everything we need. God nurtures God's own strength within us and calls it faith. And our trust is put into a God who takes us where God is going to take us, no matter the timing. So he says to his disciples today, when you hear of wars, rumors of wars, don't be alarmed. Don't be afraid. And then further, in the first lesson, through Daniel, God says, those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the sky. That doesn't sound like being alarmed to me. And those who lead many to lives of faith in God, like the stars forever and ever. That doesn't sound like being alarmed to me about the end. And then in Hebrews, through the writer of Hebrews, God says, let us hold fast to the confession of our hope without wavering. For he who is promised is faithful. And let us consider how to provoke one another to love and good deeds, encouraging one another. And all the more as you see the day approaching. I think in the Bible there is an urgency about the end. And the urgency is that God's people live with hope, provoke one another to love and good deeds, and help others come to trust Jesus and God, and do it unwaveringly. And in the process become like stars of the sky and the sun of hope shining for people. So the title of the sermon today in the bulletin, if you saw it, is, What on Earth Are You Doing? But it's not meant to sound like that. It's meant to say, what on earth are we doing? Is there a sense of urgency in you about living your faith? Is there a sense of urgency in you about encouraging hope, about provoking others to love and good deeds, about helping be people's trust in God as you live it? Because that's the call. That's the call every day of our lives. And it's the call to be that for everybody, so that if their world comes to an end, they've heard it from us. They've seen it from the church. They've seen people of faith gather together around the world to try to drown out the power of hate or evil or darkness. What on earth are we doing? Are we doing that? I like Martin Luther's take on the end of the world. Somebody asked him what it would be like if he knew the end of the world was going to come tomorrow. You know what he said? You know this if you were in Lutheran confirmation. I would plant a tree. I would plant a tree. I would plant life. If I knew the end of the world was going to come tomorrow, I would still plant life. I would still be that for every single person around me. How are we doing? It's an incredible gift to sit next to somebody in church or on the bus or at a hockey game and somehow be life for people. It's the gift that wins the world. God's love that gives us life and hope. And to be that for somebody else is the gift of life to them. I'll tell you a story about Tony Campolo because it just had such an impact on me and just on my own perspective and theology and faith as well. This happened years ago, but it was a true story. Campolo was a professor at Eastern University in Philadelphia, social work, sociology. And he started every single year taking his students on a trip to Haiti, most impoverished country in the world. Has been for years. So he took a group one year to Haiti, and they were there for a week or more. And during that week, he noticed that this group was having a special experience. Every single last one of those students was being transformed by what they saw, what they experienced, the people they walked with and were spending that time with. So much so that when they got back, after they were kind of unpacking all the details of the trip and their thoughts and doing their own little translating of what occurred in them, every single one of them, to a person, said, I am going to make a difference with my life when I get out of college, and I will do something for people just like that in the world. And there was one young man in particular who was real vocal about that, enthusiastic. He said he was going to go to medical school, and his career was going to be spent serving people just like people in Haiti, because he saw what they didn't have. He saw what they were up against. So, over the years, those kids graduated, and Campolo kept in touch with a lot of them. He was just that kind of a fellow. But he realized over some years that he just hadn't heard from that young man who said he was going to go to medical school. So he looked him up. And he found him. You know where he found him? He found him in his plastic surgery practice in Beverly Hills, California. And this is what he said to him. He said, Sir, you were given a gift. And it was the gift of having walked with the poorest people on the planet. You were going to do something with that gift. Anybody, he said, anybody can be a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills, California, because they didn't have that gift that you got. You got the gift of seeing the people of God and seeing their deepest needs and seeing even an image of what Jesus did for us in laying his life down for us to the worst and being with us in it. And you didn't use it. Anybody can be a plastic surgeon in Hollywood, in Beverly Hills, California. I want to ask us today, what on earth are we doing with the gift we've been given? In church, we come and we hear the gospel every Sunday. We receive the promise that Jesus is with us amid the turmoils of this life. And now we are citizens of the world. And our brothers and sisters and neighbors in France and other places, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, have experienced unspeakable violence, senseless violence. Are we a part of God's people that can drown out that kind of unspeakable violence and crime against humanity with love, with hope, provoking the world to peace and forgiveness, putting ourselves out there as Christ would in grace? That's the call. And we've been given a gift. And we pray again today for the strength to use it as we trust God through every day of this world's life. Amen.